had to click some extra buttons. That was interesting. So it is preparing. I'm going live on the Boyce and Alicia channel. Um, yes, and I had to click some extra
Okay,
buttons.
and we are live. Let me
Preparing.
okay. All right. So I am done with that. Okay. So, all right. So we're live on YouTube and I'm live here. Um if he's traveling, Linda's like, well, if he's traveling, skip it until he comes back. I might do that. I might skip it, but it won't be a long conversation. Maybe we can sync up our schedules. So I have to talk to him when he comes back. He just I asked him to do something for me, so he's going to do something for me. But when he comes back, I'll ask him. So anyway, hello everybody on YouTube. On I am not streaming on Fly Nubian Money or Fly Nubian Queen. It's the Boyce and Alicia channel, so I think that'll be good. It's it's money. He would love talking about it. Yeah, he gone. Usually, if I ask him to do something, I don't know, very rarely does Boyce ever say no. He usually is like he's usually saying yes to most things. So I'm certain maybe if we change the date, I don't know. I'll get his schedule and we'll talk about it. But anyway, welcome. How to be an adult in relationships, the 5 keys to mindful loving. And we are on page 189 of chapter. Is it 7? We are on chapter 6, and we're talking about what happens when fear rushes in. And we've been kind of really talking about all the different ways where you are getting in the way of forming close relationships with the people around you. And one thing about the field of social work is in our field, we believe in our core principles as a profession. We believe in the value of human relationships, and we believe in the value of having healthy relationships as well as connecting with other people. We understand that that is the utmost important thing for us to do with each other, is to form connections because it not only improves our mental health, but it also improves our physical health, believe it or not. And so that's one of our principles. So this is what happens when fear rushes in. Either you are, we call it preoccupied. You become very preoccupied. Where are you going? What are you doing? And you want to smother the person that you're in a relationship with. Or you're scared of being smothered and you push people away. Of course, you need to create some distance as well as closeness and healthy relationships. But what happens when you're just utterly petrified that someone is getting too close and you feel uncomfortable? What happens when you are petrified that a person who's away from you will leave you? And so we see this a lot. I'm on we see this a lot in social media. I am constantly on Instagram. When I'm on Instagram and when I'm on TikTok, there's a lot of really funny posts about how togetherness, people have to be together above and beyond in a relationship above and beyond being apart, and that is what is valued. And so that's not necessarily the case for everybody. And so I think it's really important for us to talk about this. So today we're going to talk about closeness, and we're also going to talk about being alone. And so I really would like for you all to get your journals out so that you can use this as an opportunity to to, as an opportunity to kind of reflect on where you fall in this trajectory and things that you can do to make sure that you are able to establish and maintain healthy relationships. I think that's the whole point of the book club. And I do honestly believe that I was talking to my husband about it this weekend. I honestly believe that there's no such thing as a perfect childhood. There's no such thing as a perfect situation. And that's not excusing some of the terrible things that happen to us. But what it is saying that we can grow and learn from them and do better. And so there are some things we can put in place to make sure that we break the generational curses that a lot of us have. And part of it is understanding about being an adult. So we're going to continue on. And to do that, um, we're going to have a conversation about how to navigate when you feel as if someone's too close, how to welcome closeness, and how to be alone. Okay, so let's get started with that. Hey, Jolene, how you doing? I'm saying hi to everybody here in the chat. Okay, so welcoming closeness on page 189. What does he say? What does he say? We don't fear physical closeness because we fear proximity itself. So we don't fear physical closeness because we fear proximity. Most of us earnestly want physical contact with those who love us. So you want physical contact with those who love us. Rather, we fear what we will feel when we get too close. So it's not about the other person, it's about how we feel when other people get too close to us. What happens to us? The real fear then is of ourselves. That's fascinating because people who have a fear of commitment, it is not about the women that they're meeting. It's not about the men that they're meeting. It is about themselves. What is it that you're fearing about yourself? What are you running from in yourself as you run from a relationship? How about that? The fear is not something we rebuke ourselves for. It is our deepest vulnerability, the very quality that makes us most lovable. Somebody asked me a while ago how to find a mate and how to find love. And my answer was, well, if you want to find love, you got to be lovable. You have to be lovable. And that's how you find love. And there's some people who are just sour patches and they have a hard time finding love. So they're sour. So sometimes you have to exude love, of course, with boundaries, always with some good boundaries, because love for yourself means good boundaries. Self-care is good boundaries. All right. We have to be. So it is our deepest vulnerability, the very quality that makes us most lovable. Vulnerability is what makes us lovable. How ironic that we hide what makes us most appealing. We hide the part of us that makes us appealing. Vulnerability is what makes you appealing. But we hide that. I think that's interesting. You go on a date with somebody and you're like, they never opened up. I never really feel like I got to know them. So I don't know. They're a little too guarded. I can't. I can't deal with that. That's what happens. You're not appealing because you're not being vulnerable. Um, Sometimes, that's right, Linda. Being vulnerable is a weakness. It's not. With boundaries, with appropriate boundaries, you don't want to be, I don't, you don't have diarrhea of the mouth where you're just talking and talking about yourself, but you have to be able, within reason, to open up to someone appropriately in order for them to love you. How are they going to get to know you? Yeah, being an open book too soon, instant friends, you don't want to do that. Of course, your love has to be tested, but you definitely don't want to do that. Okay. How ironic that we hide what makes us appealing. Or is this the work of the inner ego, trickster, who has invented yet another airtight stratagem to protect us from human nearness? Your fear protects you from what? Fear protects you from, there's two things. We talked about it a few weeks ago. I have to give some quizzes out and see if y'all can be armchair therapists. Being your fear protects you. Why are you afraid? You might be insecure. Sometimes you may feel as if there's shame. Something is wrong with me. If you grew up believing something is wrong with you, how are you going to open up? Because you love this other person and you feel that if you open up and that person gets to know you, then they will, yes, Linda, abandon you. They will say, "What's wrong with you? I'm out of here." Once you open up and uncover who and what you really are to another person, they may see that and run, feeling like there's something wrong with you. And I think it's fascinating because when you have insecurities based in shame, like there's something wrong with me, I better hide parts about me because I know that whoever I open up to and they really see the real me, they're not going to love me anymore. So their fear of, thank you, abandonment and rejection. So yeah, so Linda gets a gold star. Linda gets a gold star today because she nailed it. That is what you're really afraid of. Your fear protects you. And rightfully so, you need to have a conversation with that fear. You need to say, thank you for being a friend. Your fear is a friend to you, it's trying to protect you. But you have to say, look, fear, you're living too strongly in me, and I'm lonely. I can't form relationships with anybody. So you're going to have to tone it down a little bit. I appreciate you for protecting me. So you really have to see all the different emotions inside of you that's stopping you from connecting with other people and shrink it down. If it lives too big in you, that's problematic. And you end up being alone, and God knows what you try to make sense of that. And if you come from a place of shame, you come from a place of feeling insecure, you do one or two things. Number one, you could be depressed and start saying, "What's wrong with me?" and start having shame. But you know what else you do? You can lift yourself up and think that you're better than everybody. Remember, he's just said, how ironic that we hide what makes us most appealing. Or is it the work of the inner ego trickster who has invented yet another airtight stratagem to protect us from human nearness? Sometimes looking down at people and thinking that you're better than, like, you know, or saying, what's wrong with these men? Blame everything on the men. Or guess what? You know what else people do? They blame Western society for the reason why they have failed in relationships. They will point the finger at everything. It's feminism is the reason why we don't have any in a relationship, or it's all of these things that they point to. That is a place where you feel like you're superior. So insecurities can make you feel like, what's wrong with me? I'm ashamed. But it can also put you up and above to think that you're so much better and you have the answers because it's not you, it's Western society, it's these women, it's these men, it's all of these things. You point the finger everywhere else except looking deep inside about how you have contributed to why things aren't going the way that you want them to be. Got it? Okay. Okay. So, what else do I want to say about the first paragraph? Um, you do need to be authentic. So it is important to know yourself, and to accept yourself and your imperfections. I think sometimes people struggle welcoming closeness because they do feel that they're inadequate in some certain ways. I think that's another one. So, of course, fear is a misguided attempt to guard from the risk of rejection, the risk of loss, and abandonment. That's the biggest, to me, I think that's the biggest um, point to the first chapter. All right. How y'all doing? Everybody in YouTube world, if you want to be able to come in and get your questions answered, and I can shout you out on YouTube and in the chat, be sure to text the word love, LOVE to 87948, and then you'll be able to get text messages like everybody else who's in the chat here with me. There will be a way. Okay, there are people. I'm looking in to see how many people are watching on YouTube. There's some people in YouTube. Welcome, welcome YouTube people. Okay, we're going to move on to the next paragraph. Consider these questions in your journal. So this is where you take your journal out and you write things in your journal. Here's my husband coming down. Oh, he looks busy. Hey, boys, I'm doing my book club. I just want to tell you, I'm live. You don't have to come in because, I know you look like you were preoccupied. Did you get the stuff out the car?
I did.
I didn't want you carrying the stuff, though.
That's okay. Tell Brad I said hi.
Anyway, okay.
Who's here?
Who's here? There's people here. Look.
Oh, great.
And then I'm on YouTube, too.
Well, tell everybody I say hello.
All right, I'll tell them. Boy says hi. People say hi. Okay, let's move on. The second paragraph. Consider these questions in your journal. So get your journal out. There are three main questions. The first one, the first question is, how do I avoid closeness with those I love? So this is a reflection question. How do I avoid closeness with those I love? First question. And ask them for help in answering this question. So you should also ask your partner this question too. Okay, first question. Second question, how does my style resemble that of my parents and the ways they related to me or one another during my childhood? Second question. Okay, third question. Can I say this to my partner? Can you say this to your partner and all the single people, to your potential partner, thinking about relationships in the past and ones that's going to happen in the future? Can you say this to your partner? If you give me space, you see my love because I relax and give it on my own time and in my own way. Otherwise, the best you get is my acting dutifully and not from my heart. Let me read that again. Can you say this to your partner? Partner, if you give me space, you see my love because I relax. Okay? You welcoming closeness. You want to welcome closeness, but this coincides with people who feel smothered. Okay? This is what you can say to your loved ones if you feel smothered, if you're more on the continuum of, I don't want you to get too close. What you can say to them, if you feel like you can say it, if you give me space, you see my love because then I relax. Because if you try to get too close, I get tense. But if you give me some space, I will relax and give it my own time and in my own way. Because if I feel comfortable, I want to be closer to you. Can you say that? Those of you who has a fear of being smothered, are you able to say that? Otherwise, the best you get is my acting dutifully and not from my heart. So I'm acting in a way that's out of obligation, but not from my heart, not because I really want to do it. So that's what happens when you force yourself onto somebody. So question number one, what answers do y'all have for question number one? How do you avoid closeness with the people that you love? Which y'all do. Y'all put it in the chat if you feel comfortable, or it could be hypothetical if you feel uncomfortable. How is it? Question number one. How do you avoid closeness with those people you love? What do people do? I can think of some things people do. You know what people do? Avoid. I find that in relationships sometimes that people avoid closeness by not talking about important topics. So vulnerable topics, people just avoid it. And that's how you avoid closeness. Just let's not talk about feelings. Sometimes I think that sound like anybody, anybody avoiding topics that they know they need to have conversations about. You're just not having those conversations. It could be a way of avoiding closeness. Another way I've seen people avoid closeness, in addition to not wanting to talk about vulnerable topics, is also they'll prioritize other people, other situations above and beyond spending quality time, spending quality time with their loved one. So sometimes they will avoid closeness by prioritizing other activities. They're saying, yeah, I would love to, but I got to do this for my children. Yeah, I love to hang out with you, but I'm busy for work. Or I'd love to do that. And they're always coming up with excuses. It's not about you, it's about them avoiding the possible closeness. What about that? Some of that comes from personal insecurities that they may have. Linda is in here. What do you say? Hypothetical. I've never had a problem. I've dealt with bad insecurity on his part. I don't have a problem getting close. I have a problem of giving too much. Okay, Sharon Dews Smith. Okay, we'll talk about that. That's the next section. So hold on, Sharon. I'm gonna call on you when we get to the next part about being alone. Giving too much versus being alone. Okay, so but all of you guys, that's a great way people can avoid closeness. Okay, so number one, so write it in your journal and think about it and have this conversation with your partner. Second question, how does my style resemble that of your parents? Hello, how does your style remember that of your parents? So what is it that you recall how your parents were shared and how your parents created distance? What did y'all notice there? Let's see. How does my style resemble that of my parents and the ways they related to me or one another during my childhood? Did you have parents who were open and comfortable talking about their own feelings and what was going on internally? Or did you have parents that never even talked about it? So Linda's saying, didn't resemble my parents as they were not together. Okay, so, but maybe you saw your parents with other people, like maybe a step parent or someone. What examples did you see of interpersonal relationships coming from your parents? How did they relate to you, Linda? What did you notice? How did they relate to you? Were they open? I think parents mirror, children mirror the relationship they have with their parents, communication patterns, how you resolve conflicts, conflict resolution. You can teach your children conflict resolution, but they're watching. They're watching what you're doing, did you watch a parent avoid confrontations? There's a lot of parents out here that says, don't even talk about it. Let's not talk about sticky topics out in the open. So sometimes you have parents that will tell you to avoid confrontations. They teach you that because they don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. Instead of teaching you a way of having conversations with other people, they'll tell you not even. So sometimes some parents rely heavily on indirect communication, more passive aggressive ways to communicate to somebody. So you can unconsciously adapt similar pattern and approaches to adult people in your life. Let's see what the chat says. Sharon, I'm totally opposite of my parents. They were not comfortable talking about feelings. So I changed to telling people I have, so that there are not any questions about how you feel. Yes, that's good. That's very insightful. Very insightful. I wonder, Sharon, um, who are the people that you date? Who are the people that you date? Are they just as open as you are? I'm curious about that. So Linda said, my mom talked about everything openly. Okay, so your mom modeled for you open communication. Hopefully, she encouraged you to communicate with her. I don't remember my father telling me he loved me. Yeah, I'm certain he did, but he didn't say those words. So it makes you wonder. And, culturally speaking, some people just don't say those things. They just don't say those. They demonstrate it in their behavior. So thank you for sharing, Sharon. That's a pun. But anyway, so we're talking about these things. A Southern man, yeah, it's cultural. And remember, not talking about that is a survival mechanism for what a lot of it's a survival mechanism for just Southern ways of being, that's another topic, but there's a reason it comes out of, not being able to um, be very wordy. Manhood sometimes is plays center in being stoic and being kind of like a rock that's there, but not necessarily interacting vocally with people. So they communicate indirectly by their behavior, not necessarily expressing how they feel. So that could have been what's going on with Sharon. Yeah. It's funny, he can't stop telling me he loves me now in his 90s. Yeah, you listen, everybody, you don't want to get to your 90s and start figuring out life. You don't want to get to your 90s. Do it now. Do it now. So he must have had a transformative experience, Sharon. Yes, transformative experience. So that's a way of kind of having conversations with your spouse about and tell me how did your parents communicate with you? How did they communicate with each other? And so that's something for you to an exercise, great exercise. Okay, question number 3. Can I say this to my partner? If you give me space, these are people who fear that you are overwhelmed. You can say to your partner, can you say this? If you give me space, you see my love because I relax and give it in my own time and in my own way. Otherwise, the best you can get is me acting dutifully and not from my heart. Oh my gosh. To a partner, um, expressing this idea to your partner requires honesty and openness. It takes honesty and openness for you to say this to your partner about your ability to be open. Because what people normally do when they're afraid of closeness is that they form distance and you're leaving your partner wondering what happened. Like my husband, for instance, if he's creating distance, then I'm gonna be like, what happened? What did I do? I'll internalize like, what did I do? Did I do something to bother you? I noticed that you didn't call me back, or I noticed that you were on your own. I noticed you didn't check in with me. What's going on? Did I bother you? Did I do something to bother you? And the explanation could be, no, you didn't. I just wanted some time alone. But if you're not comfortable expressing that beforehand, you could leave your partner thinking, what the hell's going on here? So, what's Elizabeth talking about? Breaking the is on a, wait, what is Elizabeth? Okay, I don't know what this is. I'm going to delete because I don't know. That's not related to what we're talking about. You got to type stuff in that's related to what we're talking about. Okay. Okay, so Sharon says, my spouse is too insecure, and because he doesn't have friends, his family is his world. Okay, so I wonder why not have friends? Why not open up? Maybe he has a big family. I don't know. I'm curious about that. Okay. So, so that's one way of being open and honest with somebody is letting them know your patterns, so you have to frame the question and frame your communication with empathy, so you can explain, listen, it's nothing you've done. It's nothing you've done. It's me. So I need my space because you will see my love. I'm going to relax. You will see my love, you know. Don't worry, I do love you, but I really need my space. So that's something to kind of think about. Um, you need your personal space, and explaining that to somebody beforehand, it's something because it creates deeper love, it creates authenticity, and there's mutual respect and everything. You're respecting your partner's emotional needs by letting them know that I need my space. And if you give it to me, trust me, I will relax and I'll let you in even more. Look at that paradox. I love paradoxes in relationship. It's a paradox. Yeah, okay. So how's everybody doing? How y'all feeling? Any questions? Be sure to put some questions in the Q&A if you have questions, relationship questions. Hopefully it'll be on topic of what we're talking about today. But if not, I will continue on. I am on page 189, so I'm still on the same page, but I'm in another section. So this is talking about being alone. Being alone. So this is, let's see, who was it that I said I would call on? Sharon. This is Sharon and the people who tend to do too much. If you tend to do too much, like myself, I tend to be more on the do too much side. How can we be alone? Okay. So being alone. We might leave our family home and enter another home with others as soon as we embark on a committed relationship or as we move in with roommates. So you can leave your house where you live with your parents and your family and go move in with a man or go move in with a significant other, but go from your home to roommates. And we know the economic situation going on here, that is a reality for some people. Maybe some people who have to venture out of their family of origins home and they venture out to because of job opportunities or whatever. Then sometimes you may have to get a roommate so you don't get a chance to live alone. Um, this situation can deprive the psyche of solitude. You need to have some solitude. Okay, so this can deprive the psyche of the solitude it needs for its full development. Beings as complex as ourselves need retreats from others to explore the depth of our character and our destiny. We need regular periods of solitude to replenish ourselves. Solitude to replenish ourselves. Lori's like, I am, oh, that's me. I am alone. You are alone. Okay. So, all right, how comfortable are you with being alone, Lori? Thank you for sharing. Um, okay, we need regular periods of solitude to replenish ourselves, to locate new sources of creativity and self-knowledge, and to discover possibilities in our souls that are invisible when we are with others. Yes, running a half marathon, Sharon talks about. So I run half marathons to give myself alone time. Absolutely. I understand what that feels like. You can put your headphones in, you could just or not listen to anything and just look at the trees. And it's something about being in nature that helps you connect with who and what you are. So I think that's really beautiful. And Lori is, I like being alone. I find people exhausting. Okay, Sharon and Lori, y'all are two opposites of the spectrum here. So Lori, I hope you're not just joining us, but I hope that you will realize that you got to reread the part where it talks about welcoming closeness and sharing. This section is for people like us. We have to understand that it is important to be alone and to replenish ourselves. Discover, and what happens is it discovers possibilities in our souls that are invisible when we are with others. This is how we find our central evolutionary opportunity, whether we are introverts or extroverts. It doesn't matter. Sounds like Lori is introvert because she's like, I find people exhausting. I don't. I'm a little bit of an extrovert, but so it doesn't matter though. This is how we find central evolutionary opportunity, whether we are introverts or extroverts. Journal and answer to the following question. All right, so let's write down this question, see if we can answer it. Then discuss it with your partner, but you're going to discuss it with me, hopefully. Hopefully, you discuss it with me. Does our relationship include, permit, and encourage time alone? Are you in a relationship where time alone is included? Okay, time alone is permitted and time alone is encouraged. How about that? I am really dying for some time alone. I really would like some. I get overwhelmed by stimulus. So what is that? Time alone that allows each of you to focus on personal growth and self-reflection. Sometimes I go off, I know I talk about this a lot, but sometimes I'll go to these retreats on the West Coast and it's just me. I don't even want to talk to anybody. I want to shut everybody out. I want to spend the entire weekend just in my thoughts. And I think it's really beautiful to spend some time by myself. So I always look forward to it. How about this? I'm not in a relationship, but if I was, I always take me some me time. That's right. You do need some me time, but you need to explain that because that's having empathy for your partner. You need to be able to explain that. According to my husband, if I wanted to be alone, I shouldn't have gotten married. Oh, Sharon, you got to tell him. Say, yeah, I understand, husband, but I also need some alone time. He should give that to you, it's a relationship that relationships need to encourage independence while fostering quality time together. So it's important to strike a nice, healthy balance on independence and also spending quality time with your husband, Sharon. Yes, 38 years of marriage, he wouldn't know he'd fall apart without you, but he'll figure it out, right? So togetherness, like Sharon and her husband, togetherness does not automatically mean intimacy. It's important to prioritize meaningful connections, having shared moments rather than just having somebody in proximity to you all the time. Like, you need to have some of your alone time. So, understanding individual space is important. And if you feel like you got to be together all the time, you start wondering about codependent relationships and jealous. Her husband sounds like my ex, insecure and way too jealous. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. You can explain to your partner how you need some alone time, and, you can talk to them about individual space. And what that does, it can actually build stronger trust in the relationship and as well as mutual respect. So you can trust me. So when alone time is supported in a relationship, it helps us maintain our identity. And you can be your best self when you're done with your alone time. You could actually give more. I know at the end, usually about 3 times a year, I take out time to shut the world out and just be my own person. 3 times a year, I do that. And that's usually like in May, December, and sometimes in the summer. So, but that's what happens when you're a mama. Your mom. Okay. So it ends with a quote by Winnicott. Winnicott, y'all know about Winnicott? Winnicott's my favorite child. I think he was a child psychologist. He was pretty awesome. So let's see what Winnicott says. Winnicott says Therapy is completed when a child can play alone. What y'all think that means? How is it that therapy is completed when a child can play alone? And what does that have to do with this conversation? Huh? 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 What do y'all think? I want to know. Now, let me tell you about Winnicott, what I can remember, because I just taught the class. I taught a human development lifespan development course, and we talked about Winnicott a lot. He was a British psychoanalyst, and he focused on child development. A lot of what we know about attachment right now, insecure attachment versus secure attachment, all the things that we've been talking about in this book club come from Winnicott. So David Rico, he took a lot of Winnicott's concepts to write this book in a beautiful way to kind of explore. And it's funny because Winnicott talked about how it was so important for children to participate in play. And that when they're able to play, that was a wonderful thing because you have to let a child be a child. So if the child is worried, the child is scared, if the child is concerned, then children aren't able to play. So creating places where children can only think about themselves and dig into pretend play, that is when you know therapy is complete. So I think he knows that children need that secure attachment. And once you have a secure attachment, then you can grow up and be an adult in relationships and not have to always constantly need attention, and you don't have to constantly let people push you away. Okay, let's see what Sharon says. You have learned to be comfortable with yourself and you don't need others to complete yourself. How do we get there, Sharon? Therapy is complete. What did Winnicott say? Winnicott is interesting. Let me see what else he said, if I can remember. Oh, he talked about a holding space. Yes. So Winnicott's theories was about a holding space. I remember now. If a child has a holding space from which they can feel safe, when children feel safe, that means they can explore, they can express their emotions, they can develop a sense of self. That only occurs when children feel safe. So, this holding environment happens when the caregiver supports the child and makes the child feel comfortable. And at that point, the child can get down off of your lap and go explore the world because that's how they learn. But when children who are frightened and they never feel safe, can you imagine children right now in the Gaza Strip? Can you imagine children right now in high violent neighborhoods? How if they feel scared all the time and nervous, they don't participate in play. So if they have a place, if the caregiver gives support, that is when the child is secure. They have security, they have independence, and then they're able to play. It's kind of fascinating. It reminds me of, oh, I met this wonderful lady. Um, Her name is, I can't remember her name, but she's called the Passport Abuser. And she's a lady who fosters solo travel. Like she is just like, um, she called the passport abuser, and she tells this wonderful story about her life and how she ended up traveling alone unbeknownst to her. You've heard of her, Linda. Yeah, I know. She and Boyce they've gone live on YouTube a couple of times, or maybe a few times. They've talked about it, but she built an entire platform on solo travel, and a lot of women were really signing up for her program on how to travel by yourself safely. And she coaches you through that whole thing. She's good. Y'all look her up, Passport Abuser. And I think that's important if we were to take this Winnicott reference to adulthood, it would be feeling comfortable and understanding that you have to say goodbye to your family sometimes and the people who you love very dearly and spend some time by yourself so that you can come back and play alone. That's security. So Sharon talked about her husband of, let's see, 38 years. Oh my God. He has to feel secure so that he can let you go and play. You should go on a solo trip, Sharon. And then you can come back and you can have a greater sense of connection with your family once you're away. So Jolene says, you're gonna look her up now. I have problem traveling alone. Yeah, Jolene, she's amazing. Like she's like really smart. I met her, I spent some time with her and met her and talked to her, and she was a really remarkable lady, very smart. And she recently got married, and I was like, "How did you do that? Is your husband gonna let you travel 6 months, 5 or 6 months out of the year?" And she was like, "Yeah, that was a condition, of I have to continue solo travel." So anyway, um, that's it for today. It's almost the bottom of the hour, and I want to welcome y'all for joining me. I'll try to, I think my husband's doing some work, so I'll try to go in there and see if I can get next week's session on his calendar because he goes by his calendar. And if he's on there, he'll be able to talk. But if not, I can talk about it without him. I can be independent and talking about money matters and relationships without my husband, and he can travel and do whatever he needs to do by himself. We don't have to always be together, but we're always connected. So yes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Thank you, Linda. That's perfect saying for today. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me on Sunday after a long day of sitting and cheering on my daughter as she dances. Um, I will see you next week. I'm available next week. So I'll see you next week in the middle of her another weekend of being a dance mom. But I'll have a different background because I'll be in the hotel. We got a hotel. And hey, how you doing? Hey, everybody. Okay. So I will see you guys next week. With or without voice, I can be independent and do it on my own. And I wish everybody well. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye on YouTube too.